Hey YouTube, what's up? Today we're going to modify the standard Bose head unit, the 350Z, cut out the tape deck, and install Bluetooth. Stay tuned. Alright guys, we got the whole unit out on the workbench. Next up, you gotta undo the screws, remove the head unit from the enclosure. Now let's unclip the mechanism to fool the unit into thinking there's always a cassette installed. All we have to do is remove this little bracket, guys, and the spring that holds it in place. Way in there, that little black switch, right there. Looks like that's the one that tells the unit there's a tape inside. Moving on to the electricals. On the back of the unit you can see there is right channel, left channel, ground. What we're going to do, guys, we're going to cut the two lines that run up this way and solder our auxiliary device into these points here. Now, on the topic of auxiliary device, I got my hands onto one of these. It is powered by USB, and I've had soldered on a regulator that'll basically regulate the 12 volt ACC input down to power this. So I can just wire this straight into the accessories on the back of the head unit and hopefully mount this somehow in the head unit, glue it to the side or something, so it'll be completely hidden away. So this device here has a line out which the USB can send data out to the speakers. That's where we're going to plug in. That's where we're going to solder on these ones. In addition to that, guys, my unit has an auxiliary input right there, just a regular headphone jack. So I'm planning to install this little thing, somehow mount a little input somewhere on the front of this head unit. Alright guys, the battery died, so there's been a bit of progress, but I'll fill you in. I'm thinking that I'm going to install my auxiliary input on the front of the head unit, and I'm thinking I want to put it in that corner. So had to pop out the circuit board. There's just a couple of tabs. Pop out the tabs, pull the knob off. You can just just use your fingers to pop it off. Just pops out. It's got that kind of connector in there. So pull the knob off. This comes out. There's a little bit of double-sided tape, but that came out pretty easily. So this is the corner where I want to install the jack. I've cut out a little bit of plastic. I think I might just drill the rest out. It's just some, I think this plastic is what the light diffuses through. I'm just going to try to drill it out, guys. As you can see, I've put a couple of little holes there. Now I'm going to snip it out. Now I did this on a drill press just because I wanted to be very careful not to put a hole through to the front. You could unscrew all of this. There's just these little screws holding it in. You can unscrew it, pop the whole thing out, cut it with like a handsaw or a bandsaw or whatever you got. Next up, I got this little headphone jack that's going to go straight through. So let's measure this up and make a hole for this. What do you reckon, guys? I recommend doing this from the front on a drill press. Doing it by hand with a hand drill would be very, very difficult. Now, haven't really, it looks nice and even from the front, but I haven't given myself enough room from the back. The connector's a bit chunky. Let's see if I can wedge it inside somehow. If you find yourself in the same situation as me and you've put the hole too close to the edge, just sand down a couple of sides. I used a belt sander, but you can use a file just to make it a bit smaller. It shouldn't affect the integrity of the unit because this is going to be screwed into the front, so it doesn't matter. Alright, it's all in, nice and neat. Next problem, trying to get this in over the top. Had to cut a piece out. Hopefully the rest of the enclosure won't get in the way. But if you can buy one of these, that's kind of like a low profile one. Definitely pays to invest in it. These 3 pins right here are the ones we're going to be soldering into to get our auxiliary input or Bluetooth or whatever you want. To the left of that, we're going to cut the 2 channels to stop them going further in. And that's basically in case there's any capacitors or any sort of power device on the tape deck's end that we don't want interfering with our signal. All we want is to solder in here and go straight out to the rest of the head unit, the amp in the head unit. There you go, guys, all soldered in place. Now, in mine, red is left, white is right. Next up, we've got to cut these 2 lines in the PCB. So you could use, preferably, an X-Acto knife if you have one. I don't have one, so I'm just going to use this. Alright, that's all cut. Let's grab a multimeter, just make sure that it is completely severed. Next up, we need some power. Alright guys, on the back of the unit you'll have a connector like this. According to this service manual, pin number 6 is the backup power, constant 12 volts. Pin number 10 is the accessories. So if we have a look down here, that's the layout. The socket we're talking about is, focus, the socket we're talking about is that one. Alright, that diagram I just showed you is actually in reverse because it's a pinout for the plug, not the socket. So we're gonna wire into the back of that. We just got to figure out which one goes where. To get to the pins in here, I'm going to try to remove this whole circuit board, see if we can solder into the bottom of it. It's just a matter of unscrewing these side panels. There's one on each side, 4 screws, should be pretty easy. Alright, looks like apart from that there's a little tab right there that needs to be straightened out. Clip back through the slot. Alright, that's not this connector right here, this ribbon goes to your CD player, so just be careful with that, just pop straight out. Put it somewhere safe, because if you get a bit of dirt onto those contacts, it won't play very well. Then we get the screws at the front. There's a little clip there. I just bent that out of the clip. Just remember to bend it back when you're done. We've even got a nice little stencil showing us which pin is which. So let's just solder that in and put it back together again. Done, son. Alright, so we got it all taped up. I'm going to jam that in there. There was a little piece of plastic over this hole, so I'm going to cut this and run all the cabling through that opening. So I took it over to the car, plugged it all in, and it's all working beautifully. I did notice, just a heads up for you guys, if you hit the eject button, the tape deck seems to freak out because it can't actually eject anything. So I had to turn the power off for the head unit and turn it back on again to get everything working again. Pain in the butt. I guess you could do it by just disconnecting the battery, but still bit of a pain. So try not to hit that button, that eject button.